So, welcome to ELT in Chile, a podcast about teaching English in Chile. In this space, Kevin and I talk to teachers, teacher trainers, and academics who like to share their experiences and expertise in various aspects of English language teaching in Chile and globally. In this video episode, we'll be talking to Victor. Well, in Chile, he was a Birkner, who will be talking about teaching English and his experience as a teacher and researcher. So Victor holds a Master of Arts in Linguistics with TESOL from the University of Sheffield, United Kingdom, and a PhD in Education TESOL from the University of Exeter, UK. He's currently a faculty member at Universidad Cardenal Silva Enriquez in Santiago, Chile, where he teaches and supervises research in English language teacher education. So his research focuses on English language teacher identity, critical pedagogy, and English teaching materials development, with special interest in disadvantaged educational contexts. Victor's work critically explores how teachers negotiate their professional identities, adapt curriculum materials, and engage in transformative practices aligned with equity and recognition. Committed to democratic and inclusive education, Victor's academic contributions include studies on textbook adaptation, gamification in low-resource classrooms, and the application of critical theory and ELT. So, Victor, welcome and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's an honor for me to be here discussing these topics, and so whatever you want, please ask freely.
Okay, super. Thank you for accepting this invitation and for being here today from me as well. So welcome. And my first question for you, Victor, would be, one of your main research interests is English language teacher identity. What are some of the key factors that influence how teachers see themselves professionally?
Yes. Well, actually, from my perspective, there are two main aspects to consider when teachers are constructing their identity. One of them is how they see themselves, and at the same time, how others see them, right? In relation to the contextual factors, I consider that important aspects are the colleagues, for example, the school where you work, and also some personal experiences, how other teachers also treat you, and your relationship with the authorities of school. And those are the most important thing to consider. Not only what you learn at university, this is just part of it, but some people consider that this is the most influential part, but I think it is not as much as, for example, the previous experiences as a school student, for example. Most of what people learn at school has an impact, a strong impact on the way they teach when they are teachers. For example, I remember that I had an experience with a teacher, and I interviewed him, and he said that he always teach grammar. He always teaches grammar, right? At school as a teacher. And my question was, do you always teach grammar? Because it was not something that it is invoked today, right? And he said that when he was when he was a school children or child, his teacher taught him in that way, only grammar, right? No speaking activities at all, no communicative activities, and just reading and grammar, some vocabulary. Then he went to university and learned the different things that we learn. For example, different methodologies to teach English. And most of the time, those methodologies are based on communicative language teaching. But as soon as they started working at school as a novice teacher, he immediately perpetuated what he had learned at school. So it's interesting, but that is why I consider that universities are not so engaged with the reality of the schools, especially in vulnerable schools, right? And I asked him, why do you teach this way? And he said, it is because I strongly believe that if I speak English, my students will not understand a word. And at the same time, he complained that the students were very messy and they didn't behave in a better way, in a good way. So grammar for him was a kind of weight of controlling the student, right? Because they have to do what the teacher asked them to do.
To do it. Yeah.
And they
Yes.
get a right and wrong kind of confirmation or disapproval of their.
Yeah.
Ah.
At the same time, the teachers around didn't like what he was doing because there were other teachers of English, and they say you're not teaching in a communicative way because the students need to speak at least something or do other activities. But when his self-esteem started going down, right, because of those comments, and he decided to change. But every time he tried new things for teaching communicative activities, they have problems with the students because the students got used to learning grammar all the time, right? And they started walking around the class, right? They didn't pay attention, so he had to go back to the grammar lessons as always. Actually, I would like to add that one of the important things that also influence teachers are the materials they use to teach English.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the case of this teacher, and as many teachers also that work in vulnerable schools, use textbooks which are prescribed by the Ministry of Education. This teacher in particular used textbooks, but he didn't use them in front of the students. He picked up the textbook and selected all the grammar activities, and then he put them in a worksheet for the students to do, right?
Ah.
To do the activities. And I asked him, why you don't do the activities from the textbook, because the textbook can be helpful for you and for the students as well. He said, if I ask the students to use the textbooks, they're not going to follow me. So probably they're not going to, probably he might lose control of the students.
Yeah.
So, so from this experience, I can conclude that universities should pay more attention to the way teachers teach in the real context, right? Especially in vulnerable schools, because if you work, for example, in a private school, how do you say, Barrio Alto, right?
Yeah.
In an affluent area,
Yeah.
right? Probably you can speak English all the time. And in my experience, students speak better than teachers in private schools in Chile, at least, because they're used to traveling to English-speaking countries. They have classes in English every day, not only English, but all the subjects. So it's completely different.
Yeah.
But the university prepares the students for those schools, not for vulnerable schools.
All
That
right.
is the problem. So those are the factors that influence not only what you learn at school, your previous experience, your expectations of the students as well.
Yeah. Yes.
For example, in his case, he working in a vulnerable school, in a disadvantaged school, for example, he said that most of the children were born in under a rude atmosphere at home, right? Their parents were delinquents, they were in jail. So he said, English for them is not important. So his expectancies or expectations of the students were very, very low. And I strongly believe what the teacher believes is like a fulfill, right? This is self-fulfill theory, I would say, right? And I think it is true. And on the other hand, I interview another teacher who, in a similar context, but he had high
Expectations
expectancies,
of yes.
expectations of the students, and the students did really great. After one semester, they started speaking English. He used the textbooks from the Ministry of Education, and he adapted them, and but focusing on the needs of the students, right? So he read the context.
Uh-huh.
And he said, you can do it because he was born in a vulnerable context as well. And he went to the best school, public school in Chile.
Yeah.
And even though his teachers also taught grammar, vocabulary, and some speaking, right? He decided one day, I want to be a teacher to change the students' lives.
Okay.
So it is the opposite. Even though he went to a school that was the best, but the how English was taught was the same, and the same thing as happened with the other teacher. So, uh, but the problem was that that teacher, the second one that was successful, I call him Jorge.
Yeah.
Jorge is the nickname for him, right? Jorge didn't want to be a teacher at the beginning, right? Then something happened when he saw that the teachers were teaching in a bad way
Yeah.
because he liked English a lot,
Yeah.
because he played video games a lot. And that is why he acquired the language, not at school, but by playing video games and listening to music, right? So he decided, I don't want to be a teacher. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a doctor or something,
Yeah.
because he was the best student at school, right?
Uh-huh.
And and the teachers didn't treat him very well, because he was a little bit, I would say, uh, how do you call it, arrogant, because he knew almost even he corrected teachers the way they say.
All right.
And
Yeah, they don't like that.
yeah. And one day, and some of the students, his classmates, asked him to help them
Yeah.
with English, because their marks were very bad. So he started teaching his classmates using some formulas, like teaching, I don't know, uh,
Math.
maths, something like that. And he noticed that his classmates were good at maths. So he said, I can teach them using math formulas.
Yeah.
And in that way, his classmates got better marks. And then he decided, I want to be a teacher. And he was the best teacher at university. And then he went to do his practicum at a vulnerable school, and in a vulnerable area as well, right? And the students were not very different from the other teacher that I called Miguel, right? They were similar, but the experiences of both teachers were different when they went to school,
Yeah.
and the
Sure.
people around, right? And when he decided to be a teacher, when Jorge said to his family, I want to be a teacher, and you know what happened? His family said, you cannot be a teacher. You are the best. You can be a doctor. You can be
You can
whatever,
choose.
right?
Yeah.
Why
Yes,
would you?
but
Yeah.
no a teacher. Why not something better?
Yeah.
And he said, I want to be a teacher because I want to change the way English is taught. And he had an aunt that was a teacher as well. And she said, you shouldn't be a teacher because you know that it is, you're not going to make a lot of money, right? You're going to be poor all the time. And it is true. And he said, I don't care too much about money. What I want to do is something for vulnerable people.
Yeah. To make an
And
impact.
then he went to university, and he complained that at university he learned some important things, but most of what he had learned was at school, right? In the practicum or doing things at school.
All right.
But he was inspired I think in his own experience. He had a commitment with those students. And if you allow me to speak a little bit about more of him.
Absolutely.
At the beginning, he found resistance from his colleagues, right? Because he wanted to do some projects to carry out some projects in the school. And his colleagues said, oh, you're wasting your time. You're not going to make more money for that. So he found some stiff resistance. And he remembered that when he was doing English, suddenly the inspector showed up and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, dear teacher, but today we have to take to your class because it is Mother's Day. We have to practice for that. We have to rehearse
Oh
the
yes, that's
for
very
that day."
common here in Chile when you have
Yeah.
activities and you have planned something when something comes up.
Yes, that's the problem. Another day, and the same thing. We have to take your class because we have to practice for the SIMSE test.
Yes.
So he got upset and said, "Okay." He went to talk to the authorities, and he said, "I have a project. I want to do to make English an important subject in the school."
Mhm.
And he proposed some things, and the authorities or the leaders accepted it. All right, he said, "Okay, go on. We're going to give you some freedom for you to do things." And he started teaching in that way. He started using the textbook, the prescribed by the Ministry of Education, and his colleagues said, "Don't use them. Those texts are rubbish." At the beginning, he thought that it was true because he was just a novice teacher, and those teachers who were more mature had a strong influence on what was going
Yeah,
on
so school. Yeah.
at school, right? And one day there was a visit from the Ministry of Education to the school, and the inspector asked the principal to show him where the textbook were.
Ooh.
And
Ah.
all the textbooks were collecting dust in a abandoned classroom. And that was a problem because the inspector said those textbooks are very expensive for the state.
Yeah.
And those textbooks are not yours. You have to use them.
Mm.
And then the principal talked to this teacher and said, "Okay, use textbooks and as you wish." And he started adapting the textbooks in such a beautiful way that the students got engaged immediately.
Yeah.
For example, when there was an activity, they gave them different possibilities for them to choose from, right? For example, they can create a song, they can record a video, they can make a poster, several possibilities, not just one, not
Mhm.
only the one proposed by the textbook.
Yeah.
So in that way, that teacher was exercising his agency in
Mhm.
favor of the children of the school. Then he proposed at the English Day, all right,
Yeah.
to celebrate the English Day. And he invited parents. He prepared different activities, all in English,
Yeah.
and parents went and saw what was going on,
And they were
and they were
impressed.
really impressed. Yes,
Wow.
at the beginning, those parents um, were opposed right at the beginning,
Mm.
and
Yes.
they say, "Why are you teaching English? We are very poor, and my child is going to sell in an open market, for example.
Mm.
So we don't need English." But little by little, he encouraged parents to participate with their children in the English festival. Then the story is a little bit long, but sorry.
It's fascinating.
Yes.
Then he invited people from the municipality,
All
right?
right.
Because it was a municipal school.
Yeah.
And so the mayor and other people, authorities, went to the school to see what's going on and to see the English festival.
Yeah.
And they were dropped.
Yeah.
And these authorities said, "We're going to give you money for you to replicate this in different schools because
Wow.
what you are doing in vulnerable schools has never happened before.
Yeah.
It was the first time they have seen something like that."
Yeah.
So they gave him money, and they gave him also TVs, what else, tablets.
Yeah.
He implemented different activities, and then he started um, doing the same thing in different schools in his district,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
he formed a kind of community,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So everything was fascinating, just because he believed in himself and believed what was doing was true, because or was good for the students. But something happened. Something. The
This
story
I
is
no.
the story
we
is always good, but there was something that happened one day. He was participating in the teacher evaluation. This is something that also
yeah.
had, has an impact on teachers' construction of their identities, right? He was participating in voluntarily. He decided to take this challenge, right? And he got the best the best result ever in that school, right? Excellent English, well prepared lessons, everything was okay. So he said, "Okay, I'm going to receive more money from what I'm doing, and that's great because I want to get married and I want to have a house, to have children."
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
because his salary was low. So with that price, I'm going to have to improve my life for good. And the date of the results, he was called to a kind of ceremony in the school,
Uh-huh.
and they gave him a certificate, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has happy. And he said, "What about the salary?" "Oh, I'm sorry, but you don't have the experience." The
Oh
salary
no.
goes, the increasing of the salary goes together with
With
the
experience
experience,
and
along
seniority.
with, yes, along with the results of the evaluation.
Yeah.
So he was
Wow.
disappointed. And several years after, I met him in a conference, and he said that he was not a teacher anymore. He decided to leave the career,
Yeah.
and now he's working at editorial
Yeah.
or
Uh-huh.
in an editorial house, publishing house in
Uh-huh.
Chile, and he makes a lot of money. But it was a pity because sometimes there is something that is very, very important. Another factor that is very important, that is recognition,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Yes.
If you are underestimated,
Yeah.
even you have very good ideas, probably you might feel that you are not in the right place,
Yeah. Yes.
and probably you might leave the career, right? That
Sure.
is why I think many teachers are leaving English language teaching in this moment, even though there are a lot of teachers looking for English teaching positions. But many of them want to leave after 5 years
5 years, I would say yes.
yeah, and
Yeah.
counting, because every day the situation is getting worse,
Yeah.
especially in the relationship with parents, with
Mm.
students, authorities, and the Ministry of Education, and they are outburn, right? They're getting, I would say, overwhelmed a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And maybe I think that
This.
in a way, Victor, I think that leads up nicely to maybe our next topic, right, Kevin?
Mhm.
Yes, no, exactly. I thought about this as you listed all the things that you're observing in the reality. And it kind of resonated with a report that I read recently by the Universidad de Chile,
Mhm.
where they suggested that fewer and fewer high school leavers actually decide to become teachers, to enroll in teacher education programs at university.
Mhm.
Um, what are your thoughts about this and this trend? How can you link this, or can this be linked to teacher identity, self-perception, or is that a contextual, shall we say, issue that the context, as you just said, is, underappreciation,
Yeah,
overworking,
yeah,
overwhelming. Um,
Being maybe not really recognized when,
yes.
something positive
yes.
happens.
Those are the issues that it is not something isolated. It's
Hmm.
a phenomenon that is happening not in Chile. It's it's a global problem,
Mm-hmm.
global issue. It is not related to money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can have a lot of money, you can make a lot of money as a teacher, working hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, being a teacher means low salary.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Limited autonomy,
Yeah.
high stress. So everyone around I think it's not worth studying to be a teacher, right? So this is, from my perspective, something that is happening not only in Chile but in different contexts,
Mm-hmm.
because teachers are not recognized,
Yeah.
right? And not respected by children, authorities, and I would say the government as well, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
even though there are a lot of policies, educational policies, in order to confront this issue. The thing is that um, policies per se are not enough
Sure.
to, yes, you have good ideas, you might
Sure.
have good ideas, but what is going on in the classroom is something very, very different, right?
Sure.
So
Mm-hmm.
it cannot be prescribed in a educational law, right?
Sure.
There is
Sure. Like,
something,
yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Like
yes,
a law is not enough. Like you need to, it has to be, accompanied by, I don't know, a right implementation. And that's something that we see laws being passed. But again, like it's not just a policy. It would be like, how is that going to be implemented?
And
yes,
I think it's also got to do, sorry if I just may, classroom sizes.
Sure.
If you've got 40, 50 pupils in a classroom, then
yes,
clearly this has some impact on what you as a teacher can actually do in the classroom.
yes. This is a problem because with a lot of, we know that if you have 50 students
Yeah.
that don't want to learn English because English is not the central subject
Mm-hmm.
in a school, as it is, for example, as it is the case with maths and Spanish, right? English is probably the poor relative. So nobody cares about English. That is why what that teacher that I mentioned before did was something,
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
would say, beautiful.
Yeah.
But in those issues ha have some impact on the teacher's identity as well. For example, when they know that they are under valued,
Yeah.
they might be afraid of losing his or her job, their jobs, right? So what they do, they lose creativity
Mm-hmm.
and they start just following what the authority of the school prescribed,
Yeah.
right? So they don't want, probably, or they don't have the freedom to do what they want. Probably they are
Mm-hmm.
good teachers and they are engaged with the students, but if you say something, probably you can have some trouble. You
Yeah.
can be in
Get in trouble.
problems, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you can be fired.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of feeling of frustration. Actually, I belong to a community, Facebook community of English teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and most of them complain that they don't give anymore. To leave. They want to leave the career. They don't want to be teachers anymore just because they are overwhelmed.
Mm.
There is a lack of respect, and they feel that they are nothing,
Yeah.
right? They feel like the reification of the, I would say, of the profession,
Yeah.
right? They feel like a thing that you can move here and there,
Yeah.
Mm.
but they don't care about your feelings, the inner feelings. The frustration, I would say, that is the word that is
Yeah.
the main word in that community.
Mm-hmm. Well, there seems to be a rather dire picture that we're facing, and I'm sure these problems are a big, if not one of the biggest things to tackle in
Mhm.
teacher education and also systemically. I'm not even sure if teacher education can do much about systemic issues here. But given the severity of the contextual problems or the contextual, shall we say, barriers to being a good not a good teacher, but to be an innovative, creative teacher. Um, let's bring critical pedagogy in the mix. So with
Yeah.
all the problems that we have, how how can critical pedagogy, well, first of all, what's your understanding and your definition of critical pedagogy, if I may?
Mm.
Um, and then what could this look like in practice in such a rather precarious situation?
Yes, it is. Well, to be or to apply critical pedagogy is something that can be useful, right, and can transform the students' lives. But
Hmm.
it is something very difficult to do because in Chile we have inherited some, I would say, mindset of the dictatorship, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
teachers are afraid of expressing their political ideas. When I mean political, I'm not meaning that if you belong to a party or not.
Hmm.
I mean the decisions they take in the classroom. For example, which textbook you are going to use, which activities you are going to use. If you consider that the students are important or not, or
Mhm.
if
Hmm.
you center everything on the teacher, or if you center everything on the student, this is something which is critical, but it is something very difficult because in order to be critical, you have to challenge the statu quo, right?
Hmm.
Nobody, for example, the 30s want to be there forever because they don't give lessons.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a bit of a challenge of the hierarchical structure as well, right? And as you just said, like in this post-dictatorship context that is at the moment, and I mean, it's only been it's only moved on from dictatorship about 35 years ago, right? If I get
Yeah,
my maths
I would say a
correctly.
little
Yes.
more, like 40,
yes,
40, I would say.
yes,
Yes. So this is all like I think structurally this takes a long time to actually get
yes.
out of everything, out of the context, right? So how do you think this could actually work if you were given and this sounds a bit like an exam, but this by all means it is not. If you were given the task, Victor, help us implement critical pedagogy into language education in Chile. What, in your experience, in your opinion, how can we equip teachers to be critical in their activities and critical in their pedagogical considerations in the classroom?
Well, for me, the critical thing is to put the students at the center of your teaching, right?
Hmm.
Not you, right? So, for example, in my experience with textbooks, I think that it is a good idea to pick up not to reject the textbooks because we
Hmm.
can't say that they are useless because
Sure.
part of them can be
Yeah.
useful, right, for the students. But you can use the textbook and the activities as an inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
It is time consuming, but it's a good idea because, but sometimes teachers is complain that they don't have time, and it is okay because they are overwhelmed.
Sure.
But if you just change part of an activity,
Yeah.
for example, as that teacher did,
Hmm.
give the student different possibilities to do the same activity, and then they can share the experiences in the classroom. That is something critical because you are considering the students' interest, what is going on at home. For example, they can also, the teachers can also propose a kind of a project. For example, ask around in your neighborhood what is going on with, I don't know, rubbish, for example, right?
Hmm.
Or what is going on with immigration.
Yeah.
Or when if you are teaching, for example, adult or I would say teenagers,
Yeah.
you can show them the textbook and ask them what is going on here
Yeah.
in terms of gender.
Hmm.
Who is who has the power?
Yeah.
The man, the girl, or have you take a look at the whole textbook and see whether you can find a sick person, for example, a
Yeah.
person who is,
Hmm.
or for example, a person who is in a wheelchair, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Take a look, or take a look if you can find a member of the LGBT, right?
Hmm.
take a look, and the students might say, no, there is nothing about that, but wonder why.
Yeah.
That is the question.
Yeah.
Because critical pedagogy is more questions than answers, right?
Mhm.
So there is not a final answer
Sure.
because it depends on the context. But you have to make students reflect on about their own context in what is going on. And if they find something which is problematic, they can use English to, for example, send an email to somewhere, right?
Mhm.
Telling what is going on or asking for help, for example, in case they need something to, for example, if there is someone who is in poverty and needs something to eat, they can ask different
Mhm.
I don't know, organizaciones de, ¿cómo se llama esto?
Like NGOs, maybe? Or
NGO, yes, you can
Uh-huh.
ask different NGOs for help, right, in English, right, internationally. So English is more than teaching a textbook, is more than teaching grammatical rules, vocabulary, because if you just teach that way, you are wasting your time as a teacher. And for the students, is something which is not important because they are not there. There is something, a quotation that I read somewhere else that said, if I don't see me, if I don't see myself in the textbook, how can I learn then? Because it's not related
Exactly.
to, yes. So
That's
the teacher's role is to represent
mhm.
what is going on with the students around.
And make
But
it
it is
relevant
not,
for their context, right?
yes, but it is not just make them aware, because if you just make them aware that they are poor, for example, and you don't do anything,
That doesn't
that can
help
be
anyone.
yes, that can be problematic because
Yeah.
probably, but okay, I am poor. I live in poverty. Sometimes I'm hungry when I go to school. I don't have,
sure.
I don't
You didn't have
know, food
breakfast.
at all. I didn't have breakfast. But what happens? I need to find not to find a solution, but to look for something to help, right? But
Mhm.
not from the perspective of the teacher, but from the perspective of the students, because you're not going to be with students all the time, right? To
Sure.
help them.
Yes.
But you can, through English, you can make them aware that there are some problems, but that they can find solutions as well. And the
Mhm.
solution should be um, participating in different, I don't know, communities or talking to other people, right? Otherwise, it is very difficult. So,
Mhm.
as Paulo Freire said, you don't have to use the student's mind as a bank, right? You have to,
Ah,
yes, you have to problematize education, right?
mhm.
In order to be successful when teaching. But it is not something easy, as I said before. If you are the only teacher at school doing this, probably you are going to be in trouble and you might be fired, as I said before,
Mhm.
because
You're causing
every
trouble.
yes, yes, and in my case, in my personal case, I remember that I once when I was teaching at school, I tried to do different activities, critical activities. And once I was called by the principal of the school, and he said, um, "We are not interested in English language, and I want you to have the students silent and writing, for example.
Yeah.
And in your classroom, there is a lot of noise." And I said, "But they are working. English is something alive.
It's a language, yeah.
It's a language,
Yeah.
and they have to speak." But they finally, I left the school because if the authorities do not, I don't know,
Believe
understand,
or
believe in
Or
you,
even encourage. I mean, there seems to
yes.
be a
encourage.
massive lack of encouragement to.
Yes, many teachers who follows my ideas were fired.
Oh.
And in that case, Victor, well, we've been talking about like, well, textbook use and maybe curriculum adaptation, but you also say like you have to in a way like help students be more maybe for students to critically engage with teaching materials. What about teachers? Like, do you think it's important for teachers to critically engage with teaching materials? And also, can they be taught how to critically engage, or that's something that has to be, let's say, part of your own life?
I think that it should be taught. right?
Yeah.
But not only as a theory.
Yeah.
It should be taught with clear examples, right? For example, at university,
Yeah.
the English teaching program, for example, should encourage students to think about those issues, right? For example, I remember that once I asked students, do you wash your hair? What do you use to wash your hair?
Yeah.
Shampoo. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. What happens when shampoo gets into your eyes? Nothing. All right. Because, some years ago, when you got shampoo into your eyes,
You would
they
cry.
got irritated.
Yes.
And do you know what that is not happening these days? No, we don't have any idea. And I showed them a picture with a rabbit with their eyes open, and they and the scientists were putting some shampoo in their eyes until they cried. And so I said, you are not aware of this, but all the cosmetic that you use for I don't know, for
For make.
makeup, for
Yes.
example, or for beauty products, have been tested on animals, and they couldn't believe their eyes when they saw the pictures.
Yeah.
And one of them started to cry. I said, okay, the idea, because critical education is not just to make the students aware.
Yeah.
They had to find something to move on with their lives. Otherwise, they might be overwhelmed with what the teacher is saying. So we reach an agreement. What can we do in order to promote something more critical? And we decided to buy shampoo which has not been tested on animals.
On animals. Yeah.
And they did it.
Yeah.
At least until as long as I knew, right?
Yeah.
As far as I knew.
Sure.
But this is something, it is not just teaching, okay, this is Paulo Freire, and I don't know, okay, the theory is important, but critical pedagogy should be taught both critically and at the same time with examples, right? Doing things and finding a solution. It is what Paulo Freire called praxis, right? Not theory and practice together.
Practice together. All right. Yeah, I'm Kevin.
I really think you already kind of answered my the question that I thought of right now.
Yeah.
But when it comes to locally adapted materials, have you noticed? I mean, you just confessed you made a student cry.
Yes, yes.
which is probably a very well. We could probably book this under awareness raising.
Yeah.
But locally adapted materials, locally in the sense of adapted to the student's local context. Have you seen any effect of this on student engagement or making the learning process more meaningful to the student?
Yes, it
Rather
is.
than talking, my example's always if I'm somewhere in a school in a rural area, I don't really care about little Timmy who's going to Hyde Park
Yeah.
because why would I care about little Timmy? So
Yes.
this process of adaptation in terms of meaningful learning and student engagement. Have you any
Yes.
observations on that?
Yes, it is important to adapt textbook according to the local reality. For example, I am going to let me see an experience regarding the teacher that I have talked before. He connected the textbooks with the family of the students, right? The students' family, right?
Ah.
He invited the parents because for most parents, what is going on in the classroom is something that
An
they don't
unknown
care.
world.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an unknown world. It is like the school is a kind of I don't know, isolated place where the
Yeah.
students
Go.
attend, right?
Yes.
And so the teacher in a meeting showed them what their children were doing at school
Hmm.
from the adaptation he had down, right, for them. For example, pictures there were around stick on the walls, right? And the parents were impressed, and then they had to talk to the children
Yeah.
about the different I would say jobs, right? Different jobs. And they spoke in Spanish, of course, right? But then they do something in English. They represented what their parents did, right? In the I forgot the
Like
day, the English day,
Yeah, the English.
Mm-hmm.
right? So he was wise because probably he could have followed just the book, right?
Yeah.
Page by
Doctor,
page,
mechanic,
doctor, mechanic, right?
architect.
Yes, and there were many jobs that were unknown for many teachers, and this is very important. You know why? Because in my case, for example, I belong to a poor family, right?
Yeah.
And my references as a student were mechanic, for example. My father was a mechanic, my mother was a tailorist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people who work in the open market, but I knew that there were doctors as well, right? Doctors, lawyers, but there was something unknown for me.
Yeah.
So it is important to connect not only the reality, but there are also some other jobs, uh, so that the students expand the number of possibilities they can have in the future, right? And the teacher said, I was poor and I could do it.
Yeah.
You can do it as well, because he went to do a master's degree
Yeah.
at the United States for free,
Yeah.
just because he was the best student at the
Mm-hmm.
university.
Yeah.
And he said, you can do the same thing. So the experiences
Yeah.
that teachers can share with the students can inspire the
Mm-hmm.
students for good, right? And the other teacher, the opposite, they said, I don't want to learn English because I'm going to be a delinquent, right?
Yeah. I have like no opportunities to use my
Yes,
English.
and so he said, I'm wasting my time because
Yeah.
there is no hope, right?
Yeah.
So the other one believed but I think this is the main or the core idea in critical pedagogy, to believe in the students and to put yourself
Mm-hmm.
in the student shoes. And you know
Mm-hmm.
that because in the school or in the classroom, there are two cultures,
Sure.
opposite cultures, especially in vulnerable schools. The teacher who has a lot of knowledge,
Yeah.
and the students probably that might not have breakfast at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Who have
you
other things
cannot,
to worry about.
right? You
Yeah.
cannot. I don't know whether if you have heard about Maslow.
Mm-hmm.
We need Maslow before Bloom,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In other words,
Basic
we need
needs.
to, yes, to cover the needs, the basic
Just
needs first, and then move
absolutely.
on to the knowledge, right? To
Mm-hmm.
knowledge acquisition. So
Mm.
as teachers, we have to think about that. How can I teach a student who feels, I don't know, or who is hungry, right?
Sure.
So
Or if a teacher has low expectations.
low expectations, and everything depends on teachers' identity and the
Mm.
experiences that teachers have. I think that no teachers are not bad people, right? It is because they
No, we're
have
not.
bad, no, not at all.
No.
Probably the experiences that they had because you are not a teacher today.
Yeah.
This is something that has been created for a long time.
Yes.
Mm.
Absolutely. And Victor, and talking about, well, we've been talking about like different topics, critical pedagogy, or maybe textbooks, and like you say, expectations. And
Mhm.
are you working on something, let's say, currently, maybe related to this area, or you have some other plans to maybe to do research in the future, or you're working on something similar?
Yes, I at the moment I'm working in a pre-project. I
Yeah.
want to create a subject
Yeah.
on how to to promote critical pedagogy in the
Mm-hmm.
university, because
All
I
right.
know that where I work, critical pedagogy is it's taught, right, but as a theory.
Yeah.
And when I talk to students, they don't know what it is. All right, they know that there was a person who was called Paulo Freire, and when I when I tell them that he was a Brazilian person and he came to Chile, they say, "Really? He lived in Chile for some years, right? And he wrote a book here in Chile, and that book is in globally known, right?" Actually, myself, when I learned from Paulo Freire when I went to do my PhD
In England.
because
In the UK, yeah.
yes, my classmates were from China and different countries, and they said, "You are from Paulo Freire's country," and who is he?
Yeah.
And then I started to learn, and I fall in love. I fell in love with his perspective because I think that that is, for me at least, something important to believe in the students, not to continue doing the same thing, right? And to challenge educational policies and to
Yeah.
challenge everything. Even you have to challenge yourself, right?
Yeah.
In order to move on and to create a better world. So this is something I'm working with to a workshop where teachers can learn to adapt textbooks using critical pedagogy. And I'm quite sure that it's going to be a good workshop.
Yeah.
And I think teachers and the students can learn a lot from critical pedagogy.
Yeah.
But they had to be
Absolutely.
brave.
Yes, obviously.
Yes, and also open their minds, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Which actually brings me to my last question,
Mhm.
and I hope this is as simple a question as I want it to be. Probably it's not, but if there was one piece of advice that you'd give to newly qualified teachers who aim at including critical pedagogy, critical thinking, social justice oriented practice,
Yeah.
what would be a starting point?
The starting point is to start small, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be ambitious at all, right? You have to start with very small steps, right? Because it is the way you can get more experience and more
Mm-hmm.
confidence in what you're doing. And also, you don't have to work on your own. You have to get together with other people, right? Because in that way, you can talk to each other, you can reflect as a group, right? And get ideas, share ideas, and trust your students, believe in them, right? But it is, you have to be brave, as I said before, because you're not going to get results immediately.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
a very, very long process, and sometimes it's tiring, and most people wouldn't or would not agree
Yeah.
with what you are doing
Yeah.
because it is something strange
Yes.
when you challenge
Mm-hmm.
the system, right?
Yeah.
Because but I'm quite sure if you do this, your students, or at least one of your students, will I don't know, be better, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You
Or
can
think
create
think
with one
more. Right?
student.
Well,
Yes,
I think that's the crucial point that we've been talking about quite opaquely in this podcast. It's about thinking, isn't it?
yes, it is.
It is literally about thinking and engaging your students to use an L2 to think and to
Yes,
contextualize their life, basically.
yes, and I would like to add something else.
Please go on.
Uh, I would say that last year, at the end of the semester, I received an email from a student that I had around 20 years ago. She was studying English at Universidad Santo Tomás, and
Mm-hmm.
she was the worst student in class. I had forgotten who she was, right? And she said, "You were my teacher." And I was a little bit afraid. And she said, "You were the only teacher who believed in me.
Mm.
Wow.
You gave me thousands of chances to improve myself.
Mm.
And you know what? Now I am a teacher. I am working I don't know, in the United Kingdom. I have traveled around the world." And she said, "Thank you very much for being like that." And this is something that impressed me because 20 years is not a short time.
Sure.
and she still remembers that I was her teacher, and
Mm.
I think because I believed in her, right?
Yeah.
And
And this
I
is
think like
yeah,
in the face of all these adversaries and all the things that go terribly wrong,
Yeah.
that's also one of those moments why we're doing this job, isn't it?
Sure.
yes, yes.
Absolutely.
When someone look into your eyes and say, "Thank you, teacher, for being like that, for
Sure.
helping me to change my life," even
Yeah.
if you get that with one student,
Yeah.
for me at least, it's enough. I
Yes.
can sleep
Yes, much better.
peacefully.
At night.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Wow, that's a beautiful anecdote there. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victor.
Sure, absolutely. I mean,
No.
I think we started. I don't know. We started like criticizing the system and everything, and now
Mhm.
we are ending with like a
On a
lovely,
high,
on a
on a
high note.
positive note.
Positive note. So
Yeah.
yeah, Victor, we would like to thank you for your time. I mean, we could continue talking. Probably you can share your research, and then we can also share it on our website. Thank you again, Victor, for your time. And with this, we're going to conclude our episode today of ELT in Chile. So if you have any questions or comments, you can reach us at podcast at eltinchile.com. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we have a website, which is www.eltinchile.com. So, Kevin, thank you very much. And Victor, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much
much,
for the
Victor.
invitation. Take care.
We'll be in
Thank
touch.
you, you
All
too.
right.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.